So now most attendees are online, and I hope you enjoyed the short introduction to PDFA, because this is one base topic of this webinar. Now I would like to welcome you again to our webinar, Email Conversion to PDFA. I will do the webinar together with our CTO, Armin, and Armin will give us 2 sentences on technical background, please.
Yes, hello from me as well. I'm LuraTech's CTO, and I will do a bit of software demonstration throughout this webinar. A technicality, all attendees are on mute, so we cannot hear whatever you may be saying, but of course you have the option to post questions through this questions dialog box of the GoToMeeting user interface. And we will strive to answer all questions throughout the webinar, but experience shows that that is not always possible. If we cannot answer your question right away, we will get back to you by email and answer your question after the webinar. And of course, if something comes up later, or if you are watching this webinar through a recording, you are always welcome to post questions to support@luratech.com. And we will always answer those questions as well and try to provide you with all necessary information. Also, quick hint, we will have a questionnaire at the end of the webinar. We would like you to fill that out to help us to improve our presentations and to always deliver the best content, I might say. So that's from my part, and back to Thomas again.
Yes, thank you, Armin. So I would also like to introduce myself. My name is Thomas Zellmann, and I'm responsible here for sales at LuraTech, and also working already 10 years for LuraTech. As you might know, LuraTech is also quite active in the PDFA Competency Center, as you have seen with the presentation, with a short presentation. So I'm also active in the PDFA Competency Center. So now we can start with our presentation, and at first, I would like to give you a short overview about LuraTech, in case you don't know us already. LuraTech considers itself as a specialist for document conversion. So this is our main topic, where we have expertise, have solutions and products available. So we want to provide software services and very good or outstanding support for document conversion. So this is the main topic of LuraTech. The headquarters is here in Berlin, Germany, and we have a subsidiary in the United States as well as in the United Kingdom. From the product lines, I want to mention 2 major product lines. The one is the LuraDocument PDF Compressor product line. So this is also basically the tool which can be used for converting emails to PDFA, and which we will see later also in the live demo. So this is a PDF compressor which is available as a server-based solution, and the server-based solution can convert scanned documents as well as digital documents, and digital documents also contain or mean email, obviously. The second major product line is our Dockyard product. This is a complete input management platform. So if you want to organize a complete input management, and this is a very good option for that. Dockyard is also suitable if there are, let's say, complex requirements in email handling or email conversion, but this should be discussed on an individual basis, whereas, let's say, for the straightforward email conversion to PDFA, the PDF compressor is typically a pretty good tool. So now when we start into the topic, then I want to start a little bit with a, let's say, terminology or classification, what we just have discussed in different organizations here and also within LuraTech. So basically, we like to divide between email archiving and email management. Email archiving typically means in our document management industry that there's very often a hardware-based solution. Sometimes it's also called email recording. So very often it is the case that a hardware vendor tells you you can use our hardware box and store every email which is coming in. So every means including spam, all those things. And this is one part of the solution, but definitely not the complete. But this email archiving really can be deployed in order to archive for safety or in order to be secure every email which is incoming into your company, in order to, in the worst case, if you go to a judge, that you can prove that you have received any email or not. On the email archiving level, I would also place our topic of today, because this is really, let's say, a bottom level topic that we convert on a more file format level. The emails, and we will see there are plenty of email formats which generate a lot of issues or problems for long-term archiving, and how this can be done in the conversion to PDF-A. And then we have what we call, or like to call, the email management. At least I want to mention it. We will not cover this today, but I want to make sure that you have some ideas here and understand that email management is much more. So if you really want to do an email management in your organization, in your company, then here's some short aspects, which is a day by itself to discuss. So you want to think about the organization. How do you organize the email flow into your company or going out from your company? Policies, I think this is a very important keyword, and we will come back to this. So there are a lot of points where you have to decide how you, as your organization with your requirements, want to handle emails in detail. Also some policy how to work with emails, how they will move through the workflows, which is also, may also mean that you want to integrate it into the digital mailroom solution. So we know a lot of our customers and users in general have digital mailroom solutions already implemented. Typically this starts with paper, so all the incoming paper mail is digitized and goes from there, from the incoming point in the organization in digitized form through the organization and the workflows up to the archive at the end. The same is true for incoming faxes, but if you think of the application incoming mail, then this may mean, or I think it should mean, that you want to consider paper mail as well as fax and obviously email. And we all know email is becoming much more important, and it's always type, at least in business area, type of a business document. Another points are, which I just want to mention here, are the security aspects. So you need to think about security aspects you want to do with emails. How do you want to work with spam? Do you want to archive it? Do you just throw it away? So if you have high security requirements, like a bank, for example, then obviously you may want to store any incoming mail. If you're a smaller company, for example, like LuraTech, then we have a 4-week round-robin buffer, and then we throw them away. And obviously you have to think about things like private emails. Do you allow them or not? And all in all, we want to integrate this into what I call a digital folder application, which is very often a document management or enterprise content management system. So in that case, if you take the perspective of the employee who wants to work, maybe let's take an assurance, for example, wants to work with a customer folder, then he does not care whether the incoming business document arrived via paper mail, whether the customer sent it via fax, or whether he sent it via email. He wants to look into a complete customer folder and wants to see all communication between your company and the customer. And when this is all organized, then obviously you want to find and retrieve emails smart. When we look to the emails a little bit closer, coming to the more technical level, so when we talk about the formats, and I guess you all know this in principle, but I want to mention this again. So if you look from a technical, not too deep technical point, so there are much more bits and bytes. If you're interested in that, then typically you have 3 major things when you look into the email. So the one thing is the header. The header typically contains, let's say, the communication information like the sender, like the receiver, like the notes, some other things. So this is, let's say, more the technical information, how an email is routed from me to you in this example, and this may go around the world. And there's some nice quote for this is, everything goes, nothing is safe, so, which is not very good for business documents. So as we all know from spam applications typically use this feature, and you all know that somebody already has sent some spam with your email address, which you should not do. So this is very easy to change and to do things which are not wanted in a secure archiving or email archiving environment. When we look into the closer, then we have typically the body. So this is what you typically type when you produce an email, and email has a long history. So back 10, 20 years ago, it started with pure text, which was 7-bit ASCII at this point in time. Then over the time, the email and the email software, clients and servers evolved, and now obviously you can do formatted text, and you all know from different business mails or maybe newsletter is a good example that HTML is also a supported format. The point, if we take the view from long-term archiving, is that you may have multiple presentations. Technically it's called alternates. So if your email client for whatever reasons is not able to handle an HTML layout, then there may be, or there's an alternate, and at least, let's take a mobile device for example, there's a formatted text or a simple ASCII text presented of this mail. But from a point of long-term archiving and from a point of email archiving, this raises the question, what is the email reproduction with view which you want to archive? And this was just a simple part, so the body of the email. Then you all know, not a nice email, but a lot of business emails contain attachments, and this is what we like to call the whole format zoo. So you know this, you get a mail with a lot of attachments, and all of them are very often the body is just a short text, and the real business content is documented or written into the attachments. And those attachments, they may have multiple formats, whatever you can think of, from well-known applications, but also from, let's say, more exotic ones. And some subgroups are, just to point this out a little bit, so that you have typically what I would call documents. So very typically are the office documents like Word or Excel. A lot of PDF files are obviously used for sending information, business documents via email, but then you have more complicated things like CAD data, or you may even have other things like audio or video information. And the same group is executables. So this may be the dangerous part. You all know this, or your IT administration already blocks this. It's access, which is executables, which may be good software programs, but maybe also bad viruses. You may have scripts and so on. And you have packaged stuff, and packaged material can also be packages in packages. So to make it even more complicated, I think the most famous one is the zip format. So I think everybody has seen and knows that zip archives are sent around for some while. I did not want to forget that this slide and the next two slides are worked together with our partner Colors, where we have in different workshops discussed and worked around those email topics and email conversion to PDFA. Next slide, please. So we have seen the basic structure of an email, and now this raises some challenges of email archiving. So if it is a business document, and in organizations and companies it is typically an important document, so you want to do a long-term storage, you want to bring it to your archive, but the question is, what do you want to, or what is to store? So should it be the email as it was sent or received? Should it be the pure data stream, which is just bits and bytes? Or should it be the view in an email client? And I think you all have made the experience that email client 1 shows a slightly or maybe major different view of the same email. And this is also based on email data streams. So if we look a little bit into history and try to look into the future, yesterday, today, tomorrow. So when we're talking about long-term archiving, then we're talking about typically business documents, 10 years, but for contracts, for bank information, insurance contracts, industry, construction plans, we are talking 50, 90, or even longer time frames, and then this is really a challenge. So the email software, email clients, email servers are changing very quickly, and it's definitely not sure that you will be able to open up an email which is now 10 years old, and the same question goes in the other direction, whether an email client in the future, which we do not know at this point, will this really present the identical view which we see today. And this gets even a little bit worse with attachments, so you have different software versions. For example, is Microsoft Office. So will Excel 2020 do the same calculation in the formula as it is doing today, or is there a bug or an intended change? Who knows? You all know when you look back, if you open up a very old Word document, and there are also some typically very slight changes, but it's not guaranteed that it's really the same view as the original document was back when it was created. And for that, and also for other attachments, especially the, let's say, more exotic ones, it's a question, a general question, are there viewers available and do you have access to them? So this is also a question which makes it, or can make it quite difficult to archive emails. You can always archive the bits and bytes, but will you really be able to display and reproduce it in the future? So the solution approach for this, what we have worked out, discussed also with partners so far, is what we like to call a dual strategy. So in order to reach the goals or fulfill the requirements, and the very short, typically requirements are that the mail should guarantee integrity, should guarantee authenticity, and also enable safe and identical visual reproduction. So this is the requirement, and in order to reach it, the dual strategy seems to be a very good approach. And this is basically twofold. So the one thing is to really save the email data stream, so the bit and byte level, and this can be accomplished with what I call email recording in the beginning. So typically it's a hardware-based solution. This hardware can really sit at your entry door of your company, so it's a network entry door, but I like this picture. So every incoming and also every outgoing mail is saved in this, or recorded, this is a nice English word for that, is recorded in this hardware, and therefore you guarantee that you have archived all mails with the header, with the body, also the alternate representations and the attachments. But on this side, you have a, let's say, a part of the security that you have documented all mails which came in or left your organization, but it's not guaranteed that you can reproduce everything. And the second approach would be to use, and this is a part of the dual strategy, to save what we'd like to call digital printouts. So this is very common to the paper world, and I know this from a lot of companies. It's still the day-to-day procedure because there is no, and not all companies have an email management in place yet. They decide, okay, we do not have handle this, so if we get important emails, we just print it out in paper and put it into the folder, or even digitize it in our digital mailroom, which is, let's say, not the best way to do it. But the idea is the same, but not without going through the paper way. So to save digital printouts, which means to convert the email view, so what you really see in the email client, to PDF-A, and obviously, and this was typically the most important part, that also the attachments are converted to PDF-A, and it's a colon if possible. So it's likely very seldom in business application, but as you know, PDFA is a long-term archiving format for two-dimensional document format. So if you have video or audio information, then this is simply not part or not in the scope of the standard to convert this to PDFA. And the subline, and I think this is also very important when you think about introducing email management and email archiving, that you can try or should try to limit the accepted formats as far as you can go. So if you're a small company and you have a large customer, then maybe you have to accept more, but it depends a little bit on your market position. But from a technical point of view, we do not, or we do not recommend that you try to convert everything and try to accept everything. So a very nice example from Armin is a CAD format. So there are plenty of CAD formats, much more than 10, out in the market, and you may want to try to reduce it and agree with your partners, your suppliers and customers that for the, let's say, purpose of archiving, you go for one or two CAD formats which you can convert, and where you also have the original software available in order to make it viewable. So this is the base idea of the dual strategy, and I have another example which is close to that, but also from, because it's from the State Archive, the German State Archive. They also, and by nature, those people are responsible for thinking about long-term archiving of paper documents, and now more and more they think about digital documents, so that's really their core job or core function. And they also have the same, came to the same conclusion of a dual strategy. So from the State Archive of Baden-Württemberg, I have this very nice quote that the person there said, okay, I'm going for a dual strategy, so if I receive an Excel file, for example, then I store the Excel file in the bit and byte format as it is, and I store a digital printout, so I convert the Excel to a PDFA file, and when you come back to me in 20 or 50 years, I will guarantee that I can deliver the PDFA version. So this is what the State Archive takes responsibility for, but I give you the bit stream of the Excel. Whether you can display this Excel and whether the formulas of this Excel will still do the same calculation as they did 20 years ago, I'm not responsible for that. So this is, I think, a pretty good example where a long-term archiving organization or preservation organization has thought about that. And then from the timing, so this is also comes a little bit from the State Archives. So State Archives are in the not so nice position that they typically get it from the government organizations, the documents after 10 or 20 years. So this depending on the laws in a specific country. In Germany, it's, for example, the case that after 10 years, the government organization has to offer documents to the archives, and they decide what they want to archive or not. But then after 10 or 20 years, it may be very hard to find the viewer software, what application was this, how was the document created. So this is the last point on the slide, but I think that's also a very important recommendation. If you go for a conversion, then today means, or it's a bracket, so maybe after processing of the incoming document, but as close from the time frame as possible to say, okay, this is the document which we want to convert. So it's not a must that you convert all incoming emails. You may decide that the employees then decide what kind of business documents have to be converted and have to be archived. But when you want to do it, then you should do it as soon as possible. Let's put it this way, in order, because then if there are any technical problems, they can be solved pretty easy, which is likely much more difficult in 10 or 20 years from now. So back to PDFA. So I mentioned it already, and we saw the introduction file, but just to recap this a little bit, I hope most attendees have heard of PDFA already. So PDFA was exactly defined as a worldwide ISO standard for the long-term archiving. So as the title indicates, it's an electronic document file format for long-term preservation. So this was A's idea of the ISO committee, and also has this nice customer example of Airbus, which is producing the plane. So I may take this example, for example. So Airbus detected that they have to keep all documents for 99 years, and they had the same ideas like the ISO committee, which developed the PDF-A standard. So basically, the discussion resulted that PDF is a very modern and a very good format for documents, but from the view or requirements of long-term archiving, PDF can do too much. So you all know that you can have in PDF, you can embed videos or all audio files, you can do 3D, so three-dimensional animations and a lot of kind of programming and things like that, which is not wanted for long-term archiving. So the base idea of PDF-A was to say PDF is a good start, but for the goal of long-term archiving it can do too much, and therefore we create a subset. And this is basically what PDF-A, A for archive, is, that it is an ISO standard for long-term archiving, and it is available since the end of 2005. There's a new part in the works, or short before release. We'll see a good example on the next slide. And the goals, which has also been in the presentation, that it's really guarantee an aesthetic visual representation of documents, so it's two-dimensional. It's an electronic paper, to put it very simply. It enables metadata handling, which is also interesting for emails, so you can really enrich emails with metadata in order to describe what the email was all about, or what the attachments, the meaning and the reasoning for the attachments was. It keeps the structure and the semantic meaning, and it's guaranteed access, and it's obviously, because it's an ISO standard, it's independent of any vendor. So most functionalities are available with PDF-A already. Then we have one thing which I think is of special interest in the context of email archiving. So there's a new part. So also the ISO committee said the technology moves on, and we want to follow the technology in moderate steps. So as you can see, this new PDF-A Part 2 will be released these days. That's what we're expecting. So it was from 2005 to today was 6 years difference. So this is I would say, a moderate change for ISO standards, and obviously the primary or first PDF-A standard, because it's a standard for long-term archiving, will never get invalid. And PDF-A Part 2 has some new functions which arrived in document management in PDF-A, newer PDF-A versions, which are useful and do not endanger the overall goal of long-term archiving. And one thing which is of special interest here in the email context is what is called in the Adobe terminology or standard terms is collections or portfolios. So what you can do until today is to have one email which contains, for example, 3 attachments, and everything goes together into one PDF-A file, which we will see in the demo in a minute. And to make it a little bit more sophisticated, then the new function of collections and portfolios is a good option, which basically allows to embed PDF-A files into PDF-A files. So every subfile must also be a PDF-A. So this is pretty good if you think of digital folders when you want to have sub-documents or sub-chapters. If you think of something like that, especially for emails, then you really are able to convert the email, but you take the Excel, convert it into one PDF-A file, you take the Word attachment, convert it into a second PDF-A file. So you have the source, let's put it this way. You can track back the source, but all in all, it's still one logical and one physical PDF-A file, which is the whole email which you receive from your customer. And how is this done with the LuraTech solution? So this is what I mentioned in the beginning, the Lura document PDF compressor. The PDF compressor can serve scanned documents as well as digital documents. For digital documents, which includes emails, there's a born or so-called born digital option, and this can be deployed in order to convert emails. So if you look into the picture on the left side, you have plenty of emails. Those typically arrive in the mail server, where it, for example, is an Exchange server. Then you have all those attachments where you already see some of the issues. So it's docs, the old Office version for Word, and it's XLSX, the new Office version for Excel, but also lots of PDFs, which you also want to convert to PDFA, because PDFA is also a quality or a good PDF, and those go typically file-based into the PDF compressor. So the PDF compressor is sitting in the background as a service and picks up those mails, converts them to PDFA and outputs them, and then they go into the workflow, into the network, or into the archive, depending on the workflow or workflows which are implemented in your organization. So this is the base principle how the PDF compressor works. And now Armin will show you this. So we have a sample of an email conversion. We also have a sample of a PDFA-2 portfolio. And I also want to mention, as I said, this is really a background service, so it needs to be integrated in the workflow when you set up this. But when this is done, it's really an automatic operation as a service on a background service, and we'll see customers who are doing that. So then after this is integrated, the workflows and the procedures are running, then it just runs basically. Armin.
Yes, okay. I'll switch to the installation of this PDF compressor. It's actually a virtual machine because as it is a server system, it requires a Windows Server operating system. The reason for this is that for converting such things as Word documents or Outlook emails or other born digital formats, as we call them, we really need to start background sessions where the actual applications are run in order to render the documents and then convert them to PDFA or plain PDF, which is also an option. But of course, we favor PDFA. I don't want to go too much into the technicalities of the PDF compressor. There are other webinars that cover these topics in great detail. And of course, if you have detailed questions, we can answer them offline, and many of you have probably already seen such a demonstration or have tried a demo version of PDF compressor. Suffice to say, we can have a job here which basically takes all the files from this input folder. There are a few more than only the email messages, but nevertheless, we can have a quick look into this email message, and as you see, it does contain various attachments of different formats, and all of these should be converted along with the email message. That's basically what it does. We have an output folder specified here, which is currently empty, but I'll change that in an instant because I've now started the conversion. And as you see here in this message view, the conversion is already running, and you see documents appearing here. And let's see what has happened with the email with the attachments. First of all, the blue bar next to the title in Adobe Reader tells you it is PDFA. And if we look at the pages, we see this comes from the fax message. These are converted Excel pages. Actually, when you convert Excel, you must make sure that your print options are set properly, because they not only govern the printing of the file, but also the PDF conversion, because it tries, as Thomas said, it tries to stay close to this metaphor of digital paper, and therefore respects the pagination that you select in your Excel files. Here we have results of a PowerPoint presentation, and then finally we have a plain text file and the ever so popular image of our CEO, which was also attached to this email. But what you also see, to come back to the issue of portfolios, what you also see is that all these contents are put next to each other. So there is no real reliable way in this fashion to tell which part came from which document, and that would be something that we can better address in PDF-A once the portfolios have been released along with PDF-A standard 2, PDF-A 2. And to get back to that, I'll quickly show you an example. We do have an example PDF-A portfolio, and this is one single file. If I click it here, it opens up in Adobe Reader just as well. But if you then go to this attachments menu point here, I must apologize. Many of what we show here is in German, but I think it's familiar enough that you will know what I am talking about when you look at your English version of Adobe Reader. So what you see in here is a list of 4 sub-documents which are part of this PDF-A portfolio, and you can simply double-click them and they will open up individually as a different document. And those don't contain any further attachments in turn. And that would be certainly something to aim at when really implementing this PDF-A 2 standard. We are ready for the release of the standard, but there is some features that we will need to implement to really make full use of this new standard and not just produce standard compliant files, which we are ready for. Okay, I hope this gave you a quick overview. Something that I might mention offhand is that, as Thomas said, the PDF compressor comes with a so-called jobless processing interface, and we have found in the course of several years that most of our customers who require this, or actually all customers who require this, were able in one way or another to tightly integrate PDF compressor with things such as a SharePoint server or a document management systems or systems with mixed inputs such as scanning on the one hand and, say, microfilm processing on the other hand, to reliably process things and to just have PDF compressor running on a server in the background and really, really requiring very little maintenance and user interaction. Thomas, did I miss anything? Anything you might want to add?
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Armin. So this was, I hope, a nice live demo how this works, and what Armin showed is also part of the setup. So as I said, it can work in an automatic, or also as Armin said, can work in an automatic way for all the product. And I briefly want to mention the licensing options which are available with the PDF compressor if you want to use it for email conversion. So the one thing, and some of the attendees are already existing users of our PDF compressor. For those, this is an add-on component. So then you can, for example, have scanned and digital documents or emails together, and then we have basically 3 models, whereas the standard model is a PDF compressor server with the so-called born digital module. So this is an unlimited processing, which is based on CPU cores. Typically it's 1, and if you have high volume environments or millions of mails per day, then there are multi-core options. For smaller applications or for smaller volume, we have the so-called PDF compressor advanced model. So this is pages in time, so you can choose from 50,000 up to 500,000 pages per year. So you have an ongoing volume which can be processed. And then the third model is what we call the PDF compressor basic, which I think is not so important, or I've not seen it so often in our email project. If you have something like a large email backlog which you want to convert, let's say the last 5 years, in order to make this as a safe archive in PDF-A, then this is absolute pages. So if you know this, then this may be an option, but I would say mostly for the ongoing email conversion, either the advanced or the server are the right options. But we obviously are happy to consult and discuss this with you on an individual basis. So which brings us to the summary and also for hopefully the next step, a test version, if you want to move on with that. So I hope you have seen in this short webinar that PDFA, I hope you have heard this for archiving of documents in general, but it's also a secure and safe solution for the long-term archiving of emails, and is a not a very good candidate, it's a good way to go with the dual strategy we discussed. And as we said, I want to mention this again, so not email policies, they are much more, if you go for complete email management, are quite important, so we really recommend do not accept everything and do not try to convert everything, so you will get so many special cases. So we really recommend for email archiving by the organization to try to limit the number of formats you want to convert. And as I said in the beginning, it should be integrated. So as nice as it is to convert emails to PDFA, it's only a technical part of, I would recommend, an overall or complete email management. So this should be embedded in a whole strategy or procedure, business process in your company, how you want to handle emails, and set up an email management which can be for a small company quite simple, so don't be afraid of a big word here, but let's say for very large organizations, this may be really also a very big project to organize this. And I missed this a little bit, so we spoke about PDFA for long-term archiving, but the second goal or benefit of PDFA can really be to synchronize the heterogeneous document formats which you have in your archive. This is also where PDFA is a very good candidate over time and project by project to synchronize, like you've seen this in the presentation where all the puzzle pieces became PDFA, to have a really synchronous and homogeneous archive which may go from internal documents over output documents to scanned documents and obviously emails as we discussed today. I also want to mention two sample and reference customers we have in this area, and which are very good to mention. So the one is Helaba, which is a German bank, so they are really also very modern and innovative PDFA customers. So also you can see for a large corporation that the really step-by-step approach is feasible and a good way to go. So Helaba started, I don't know, 5 years back ago with a digitization of their bank folders, and they added the digital mailroom solution, and in the last 2 years they added the email conversion. So you can see from how a large corporation can do this step by step and synchronize the whole archive of PDFA. And Kühne & Nagel is a German logistics company which is doing a very high amount of email conversion per day, so it's a very large corporation and is also using the PDF compressor for this. If you are not too far away, then you can meet both at our Lura convention, which is a major LuraTech event this year for customers, partners, and interested persons. It's in May, in the middle of May, and I need to mention you need to understand German, but maybe some of you are not too far away and can understand German, and it's a pretty good option to talk to these email conversion users, but also to other users of the LuraTech solutions, and obviously to all the employees of LuraTech. If you are more far away, then we are happy. If you want to evaluate this, if you want to test this with email conversion, to provide us with a PDF compressor or a digital test version. So this basically has just a watermark added, but you can test and do everything with that. So please feel free to contact us directly over our website or just send an email. So I would like to thank you for your attendance. We hope you got some interesting information about the idea of email conversion to PDFA. Please do not hesitate to contact us for more information. I can check with Armin whether there are open questions from the chat.
Right now I don't see any questions. one question I might mention from the German webinar was what happens if you convert documents such as Word documents or Outlook emails and the software in the background, such as Microsoft Word or Outlook, brings up a dialog box, for example, informing you that the document can only be opened read-only, or that a password is required for the document, or that something else did not work out. For example, that the formula in an Excel sheet contained an error. We try to handle such issues during conversion as best as possible. Things that can safely be ignored, for example, a document being read-only does not really affect the conversion because you only need basically to open it, to take a glance at it, to be able to convert it. Such things are handled automatically. Other things such as passwords or errors in Excel formulas are more complicated, and they will typically result in a conversion error. So you may have files where the system flags errors and someone has to go from time to time and check them manually and see what is happening there and whether they can be modified or fixed so that they can be converted safely. Of course, similar things happen if you have attachments that totally fail to convert. So for example, if you have spam and something says it's a Word document when in fact it isn't, it will of course not be converted, but the system will issue an error message. Okay, before I go into too much detail here, again, I would like to refer you to our support. Whenever you have examples where you think they are interesting or critical, send them to us or get a test version and have a try at it. Okay? So thank you very much for your attention, and hope to have you again as guests in one of our upcoming next webinars.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Armin. And as Armin said in the beginning, the slides and the recording of this webinar will be on the website tomorrow or early next week. And when we leave the session, there's a questionnaire, and we would appreciate your feedback in order to improve future webinars. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening.